Now it's your turn. There's a lot to this exercise, so I'm going to walk you through every part of it so you know exactly what you need to do. So go ahead and download your exercise files, and the first thing you want to look at is the typography worksheet. This is an Illustrator file, and when you open it up, you're going to see 5 different artboards, and each one has a typographic challenge on it. You can find the instructions right down here. What you're going to need to do is kern the text to match on this first one. So you have 3 different text layers, and behind them there is this layer of like a magenta guide. This is what you want to get your text looking like. And just follow the instructions on each artboard for what you actually need to do to achieve that. So for this one, you just need to kern it to match. On the next one, you're going to need to do the tracking. And then you're going to need to use the touch type tool to match this frame. Something I do want to point out with this one, under the hint, it says to move and rotate each character. Something I didn't cover in the lesson is that with the touch type tool, Shift T on the keyboard, if you have a character selected, there's this little option up here at the top, the little handle, that will allow you to rotate characters as well. So you can scale them up or down by clicking and dragging on the top right corner. You can reposition them on the baseline by dragging them up and down, and you can kern them by dragging them left and right, as well as rotating them. So be aware of that on that particular example. The next one is to match the leading, so you don't have to do anything except match leading on these 2 paragraphs. And then the last one is kind of the big one. It's everything. You're going to want to work on justification, the leading, the tracking, the kerning, until this block of text that you have accessible matches the guide text behind it. Now, one important thing with this particular worksheet is that you're going to need the typefaces that I used in this document in order for it to actually work. If you don't have those fonts installed and synced to your computer, then it's going to just use a temporary font and it's not going to work. You can't line text up if it's a different font. So I've gone ahead and uninstalled one of the fonts, and I'm going to open it up again. When you do this with a Creative Cloud font, a font that's available on Typekit, Adobe is going to actually recognize that you have a missing font in this document. It's going to tell you the name of the font, and it's going to tell you whether or not it's available to sync from Typekit. In this document, all of the fonts came from Typekit, so you should be able to see everything in this list and have a check mark next to sync for each one. So just make sure sync is checked and then say sync fonts. That'll take a second to download from Typekit, and then before you know it, this font right here, which I'm missing, should update and display in the correct font. And there we go. Just like that, it successfully synced the fonts. That's displaying properly now. I can hit close and move on. So just make sure that that worked for all of the fonts in your document before you tackle this exercise. Once you're done with all of that, make sure that you turn off the worksheet layer before you export, and that way we don't have all of that extra stuff around those frames. Then export it out and upload it to the Homework Locker. Once you're done with that worksheet, you're going to move on to the bulk of the assignment, which is 3 different brands frames where it needs some typography. And you're going to have a brand guide for all 3 brands. So let's take a look at them. First, we have Maximum Arena Challenge, and this is an extreme competition like BMX, motocross, skateboarding, that kind of stuff. And in this brand guide, you're going to find the display copy that needs to be put in to the existing PSD, which I'll open up here, that another designer has already worked on. So you're being given this document just like I was in the lesson that's already set up. It has the background designed, it has, some effects like a vignette, and it has the logo in there as well. So since this is locked, that's probably a good indication that the designer wants the logo right there. So I wouldn't bother messing with that. But something I do want to point out is that this brand's logo has this cool texture in the background. If we go back to the actual brand guide, you can see that pretty clearly. So take that into consideration as you're doing the typography. Maybe you want to add some texture to the text similarly to that. There's a really great Kyle T. Webster brush pack called Spatter Brushes, and you can get that by coming up to this gear and saying get more brushes. That'll open up the website that hosts all the brush packs from Kyle Webster in your browser, and you can find Spatter right here. This is a really great pack for adding those grungy, dirty elements. So I'd recommend you download that pack and play around with the different textures with your typographic treatment for that particular frame. Next up, we have another brand guide for a network called Canoodle, and this is a kids cartoon channel. And you can read all about the brand, get all the information you need there, but there is some really important stuff in here, like highlighting the new episode of Finkel and Einhorn. So you're going to be making a frame for tomorrow's schedule, so the schedule should be headlined by tomorrow. So make sure you're carefully reading through all this information so you know exactly what needs to go inside each frame. And then you'll have the schedule. You'll have to decide how you want to lay that out, and then make sure that you clearly highlight the new episode of Finkel and Einhorn. Also indicate that all times listed are for the Eastern time zone. So this is indicating that this channel does not account for the Central time zone like I did on the HIP network. You just want to indicate somewhere on the frame that makes sense that all of the times listed are for Eastern time zone. And you're also given a board for this. This is going to be an Illustrator file. So there you go. We've got a design already ready to go, some placeholder images, it looks like, of the 3 different cartoons that will be in the schedule. This is the logo for the channel, so you're going to have to decide what you want to do with that in the design. And then it looks like you've got a couple of dividers, just 2 different dividers that go along with the brand that you can kind of figure out how you want to use. It also looks like the designer put in the brand colors over here, so that's convenient. You just have easy access to that. But the rest is up to you. So that's it for the Kanoodle board. And then we have one more brand called Coccinelle. And this is a chocolate company, and they actually don't have a brand yet. So they're a young chocolate company that produces premium chocolates, manufacturer and distributor. But down here in the other notes, right down at the bottom, we don't have a brand package yet and would like you to put a logo sample together for us. And we're thinking an elegant script font would go well with their name. So they don't have a brand, they don't even have a logo, so you're going to have to mock something up with a script font. Now, just like I designed that Silver Lake logo for the HIP network using alternates, a lot of times script fonts have many alternates as well. So play around with that. Don't just type out the name of the company. Try and find some alternates, play with the sizing of some of the characters, and see if you can come up with something that looks more like a logo than just something that you typed out using a font. And you're given a PSD for this one as well. It's pretty simple. We've got just a basic photo in the background, a frame that's going to hold some text, and then an ornament. And if we take a look in here, there's actually a couple of ornaments to choose from. So you can decide which one you want to use, if you want to use any of them, and how to lay out the text that you'll find in the brand guide. And believe me, I realize that I'm throwing you into the deep end. I'm doing this on purpose because this is how you're going to learn. And you probably have noticed by now that there were no fonts listed in any of those brand documents. So it's up to you to pick and choose fonts that are going to work best for each project. Now, I am going to help you out a little bit. If you're new to typography, this is probably really intimidating. So there's a PDF in the exercise files with a bunch of fonts available on Typekit that are great to use. So you're going to find some sans serif fonts that have lots of different weights and varieties, and then you're going to find some serif fonts, some script fonts, even some slab serif fonts in there. So you can use that as a guide if you don't feel comfortable searching for your own fonts yet, but also don't hesitate to look through Typekit and see if there are some fonts that you think could also work well that aren't in that list. Once you're done with all of that, if you're up for an extra challenge, there's going to be a PDF included in the exercise files with alternate languages for each of these frames, which is actually a very real-world scenario. Sometimes a company needs to do the same ad in multiple languages, and the thing is, the typography that you set in English is not going to be exactly the same as the typography you would set in German, for example. The number of characters and the width of the characters is going to change, so your layout is going to have to change. You want to do whatever you can to keep the alternate languages as similar to the original language that you created in as possible, but you will most likely have to make some compromises somewhere in your typography. So, to recap your assignment, you're going to first work on your typography worksheets. Do everything in that document and export those for upload. Then move on to your 3 board assignments. You're going to lay out the typography for the Extreme Sports Competition Maximum Arena Challenge. You're going to work on the Kanoodle Show Schedule Promo Package frame. And then you're going to work on this Coccinelle board for the chocolate company, where they're going to need a logo and then some elegant text for housing the rest of their display copy. If you've done all that and you want more of a challenge, you can try an alternate language for one of your 3 boards, export everything out, and upload it to the homework locker so you can get a critique from your TA. I know this is a big assignment, but I have faith you can do this. So, let's get to work. Good luck.